The sound of breaking glass shattered the morning silence as 12-year-old Sarah dove behind a rusty dumpster, her heart hammering against her ribs. Blood trickled from a fresh cut on her forehead where the bottle had grazed her. She pressed her palm against the wound, watching crimson drops fall onto the dusty Lego street. Which child? Devil's daughter. The market woman's voice cracked like a whip through the air. You and that mad woman better disappear before I call the police. Before we dive in, make sure to subscribe, give this video a like, and tell us in the comments where in the world you're tuning in from. Now, let's begin. Sarah didn't move. She couldn't. Her legs had turned to stone. Behind her, slumped against the concrete wall of a half-demolished building, sat her mother Diana. Once beautiful, now broken. Once brilliant, now babbling nonsense to invisible spirits that haunted her fractured mind. The angels are crying again, Diana whispered, her eyes wide and unfocused. They're drowning in the blood of children who forgot their names. Another stone flew past Sarah's head. Then another. The market woman wasn't alone anymore. 3 other traders had joined her, their faces twisted with disgust and rage. They advanced like hunters cornering wounded prey. This is what happens when demons give birth. One spat. Look at them. Cursed. Both of them cursed. Sarah closed her eyes and made a silent promise to herself. One day, she would prove them all wrong. One day, she would show the world that brilliance could bloom even in the darkest gutters of human cruelty. She had no idea that one day was about to begin. 3 months later, Sarah crouched behind the towering gates of Golden Heights Academy, the most exclusive private school in Victoria Island. Her stomach clenched with hunger, so fierce it felt like claws tearing at her insides. She hadn't eaten in 2 days. Her mother had disappeared again, wandering off into the maze of Lego streets during one of her episodes, leaving Sarah to search the city alone. The security guard's boots crunched on gravel as he made his rounds. Sarah pressed herself deeper into the shadows, clutching a soggy piece of cardboard that served as her notebook. On it, written in charcoal, were mathematical equations she'd memorized by listening through classroom windows. If they caught her here, it would be over. The third school in 6 months to ban her from their premises. The last security guard had threatened to call the police, to have her locked up as a vagrant. But she couldn't stop coming. Education was the only ladder out of the hell that had swallowed her life whole. Through the window, she could see children her age bent over pristine textbooks, their uniforms crisp white, their shoes polished black mirrors. They had everything she'd ever dreamed of. Everything she'd been denied simply because she'd been born to a woman whose mind had shattered like dropped glass. Her mother needed constant care. Without Sarah watching over her, Diana would walk into traffic, drink contaminated water, or worse. The doctors at the free clinic had been clear. Your mother requires supervision 24 hours a day. Institutionalization would be best, but that costs money you don't have. So Sarah lived a double life. By day, she was a ghost haunting school perimeters, absorbing knowledge like a sponge desperate for water. By night, she was a caregiver to a woman who sometimes didn't recognize her own daughter's face. The weight of impossible choices crushed down on her thin shoulders. Save her mother or save herself. There seemed no way to do both. As she watched a teacher explain algebraic equations through the window, tears blurred her vision. She was running out of time. At 12, she was already too old for most primary school programs. Soon, even if a miracle happened and someone offered to help, it would be too late. The window of opportunity was closing, and she was still on the wrong side of the glass. A sharp whistle made her jump. The security guard was looking directly at her hiding spot. "Who's there?" he called out, his hand reaching for the radio on his belt. Sarah's blood turned to ice. If he caught her, if he called the authorities, they would take her away from her mother. Diana would die alone in the streets, abandoned by the only person in the world who still loved her. She had to run. But where could a homeless girl with a mentally ill mother possibly go to hide? It was an equation with no clean solution. Sarah wasn't supposed to be there. Queen's Crest International School had tall, polished gates guarded by men in navy blue uniforms with radios clipped to their belts. Children arrived in air-conditioned SUVs, escorted by drivers in white gloves. The walls shimmered with fresh paint. The glass windows reflected the sun like diamonds. It was a school for the rich, the elite. Definitely not for the barefoot daughter of a roadside madwoman. But Sarah had seen it one too many times from afar. And today something inside her said, "Go closer." She had no money, no plan, and no right. But she had eyes filled with longing. So she crept around the side fence where bush and weeds grew wild. She found a small gap near a drainage pipe and slid in, brushing off thorns as she slipped through. Her heart pounded like a war drum. She expected to be caught immediately, but no one saw her. She walked past flower beds, hiding behind trees, ducking every time she saw a teacher or student. Eventually, she found a quiet spot behind a large mango tree near the backfield. From there, she could see one of the junior classrooms through a window left open. She crouched low, pulled out a pencil stub from her pocket, and began copying the words she heard onto a scrap of plastic. She was halfway through, sounding out a difficult English passage, when she heard a voice behind her. "You're the girl they always chase away, right?" Sarah's heart stopped. She spun around. A girl about her age stood there, her hair braided in neat patterns, her uniform spotless, her name tag sparkling, Jessica Thompson. "I didn't mean any harm," Sarah stammered, backing away. "I was just listening." Jessica tilted her head. "Why?" Sarah blinked, confused. "Because I want to learn." Jessica walked closer. "You don't go to school?" "No. My mother, she's sick. We live on the streets." Jessica looked down at her polished black shoes that made no sound on the soft grass. "People laugh at me too," she said quietly. "They say I'm dumb, that my dad paid the school to keep promoting me." Sarah looked up, surprised. "You?" Jessica nodded. "I don't understand anything they teach in class. Everyone's always ahead of me, so I sit out here during lunch alone." A long silence passed. Then Jessica smiled. "Do you want to sit?" Sarah hesitated. Jessica sat first and patted the ground beside her. Sarah slowly lowered herself to the grass. Jessica opened her bag and pulled out a textbook. "Can you teach me this? I don't get it." Sarah looked at the page. "Fractions." She studied it for a moment, then gently took the book. "Okay, so look, when you see 1/2 and 1/4, they don't have the same denominator." Jessica listened wide-eyed as Sarah broke it down. Within minutes, Jessica was solving problems she had struggled with all semester. "I understand," she gasped. "I finally get it." Sarah smiled shyly. "You're not dumb." Jessica grinned. "And you're not just smart. You're amazing." They sat under the mango tree for over an hour. When the bell rang, Jessica stood. "Will you come tomorrow?" she asked. Sarah hesitated. "They'll chase me. I don't belong here." Jessica narrowed her eyes. "Wait here." She ran off. A few minutes later, she returned with the school's security man following closely behind. "This is my friend," Jessica said firmly. "Her name is Sarah. She'll be here tomorrow during lunch. Let her in." The man looked confused. "But she's not." "She's my friend," Jessica repeated. "And my daddy owns this school. You have a problem with that?" The man blinked and said nothing. Jessica turned to Sarah. "Same time tomorrow." "Okay." Sarah nodded slowly, still not believing what had just happened. As she left the school, she felt something new. Not fear, not shame. Hope. That night, as her mother sang to a broken bottle and danced barefoot in the dark, Sarah sat by the gutter and prayed. "God, I met someone today. She saw me. She didn't call me dirty or mad. She listened. Please, let me see her again. Let this not be a dream." Then she slept with a smile on her face. The first in a very, very long time. They met under the mango tree every single day. Same time, same spot. Sarah came barefoot in her torn brown dress, clutching a plastic bag with torn papers and a blunt pencil. Jessica came in her ironed uniform with a lunchbox packed by the cook. Two girls from two different worlds. But when they sat under that tree, nothing else mattered. Their friendship grew like a fire in the cold. Jessica laughed more now. She paid attention in class, not because the teachers finally made sense, but because Sarah did. "Don't read it like a robot," Sarah would whisper. "Read it like you're talking to your best friend." Jessica tried, stumbled, then tried again. And when she got it, Sarah clapped with joy like she'd won a trophy. Jessica's eyes would shine. "No one ever claps for me," she once confessed. Sarah blinked. "But you're rich. Don't people celebrate you?" Jessica shook her head. "Only when I dress well or when my dad hosts parties. Not when I get answers right. Not when I try hard." That day, Sarah held her hand and said something she never thought she would say. "You deserve more." Jessica didn't say anything. She just held Sarah's hand tighter. One afternoon, as they shared Jessica's spaghetti and plantain under the tree, Jessica asked, "Do you have a best friend?" "You," Sarah replied without thinking. Jessica smiled. "Me too." Then her smile faded. "Sarah, what if my daddy finds out? What if he says we can't be friends?" Sarah paused. Her spoon hovered over the lunchbox. "Then you'll forget me. That's how it works." "No," Jessica snapped. "I won't. He'll be angry," Sarah said softly. "Rich people don't want their daughters sitting with girls like me. My mother begs on the road. Jessica, some people say she's cursed. They think I'm cursed too." Jessica was quiet. Then she leaned forward and whispered, "You're not cursed. You're magic." Sarah blinked, stunned. "Magic?" Jessica nodded firmly. "Yes. Who else can teach better than all my teachers? Who else can make me laugh when I feel like crying? Who else can make a place like this feel like home?" Sarah's chest grew tight. Her eyes welled, but she blinked fast to hold back the tears. "Magic," Jessica whispered again. "That's what you are." They started sharing more than food and textbooks. Jessica brought Sarah a hairbrush, a small blue notepad, even a pair of slippers once, though Sarah rarely wore them, afraid someone would steal them on the street. Sarah, in return, told stories, real ones and made-up ones. Stories about stars falling in love with street kids, about girls who found schools and dreams, and about mothers who got healed by rain. Jessica listened like every word mattered, and it did. For the first time in her life, Jessica didn't feel alone. And for the first time, Sarah didn't feel invisible. But they kept it a secret. Jessica didn't tell her teachers, didn't tell her classmates, definitely didn't tell her father. Chief William Thompson, one of the most feared and respected billionaires in Lagos. She didn't know how to. How do you tell a man who ran oil companies and sat on TV panels that your best friend was a street girl with no shoes? And so, under the mango tree, the two girls built a world of their own. A world where names didn't matter, where background didn't exist, where a billionaire's daughter and a madwoman's child could dream the same dream together. One day, Sarah didn't show up. Jessica sat under the tree waiting. She checked her watch. 30 minutes, then an hour. Still no Sarah. Panic crept into her chest. Had something happened to her? Had she fallen sick? Or worse, had someone chased her away again? She stood ready to run to the gate when she heard a soft voice. "Jessica!" She turned. There was Sarah, panting, barefoot, dirt on her legs, but smiling. "I'm sorry I'm late," she said. "My mom, she had an episode. Ran into the road. I had to pull her away before she got hit." Jessica rushed forward and hugged her tightly. "I thought you weren't coming." Sarah chuckled. "Even if I had to crawl, I would come." Jessica pulled back and looked her in the eye. "One day I'll tell my dad. I promise." Sarah swallowed hard. "What if he says no?" Jessica smiled with fire in her eyes. "Then I'll scream until he says yes." That night, under the dim light of a broken street lamp, Sarah lay beside her mother, who was humming to herself, holding a stone like it was a baby. Sarah stared at the sky. "God," she whispered, "I've never had a friend before. Please don't let me lose this one." She reached into her pocket and pulled out the notepad Jessica had given her. On the first page was a drawing. Two stick girls holding hands under a mango tree. One in uniform, one in rags, both smiling. Sarah traced the drawing with her finger and smiled. Then she closed her eyes. And for the first time in her life, she didn't fall asleep afraid. The morning started like any other. Jessica sat through her classes distracted, waiting for the lunch bell. Her fingers tapped her desk restlessly. Her heart was beating faster than usual. The teachers praised her improved performance. She had answered 2 questions correctly in literature. Even the principal mentioned it during assembly, but Jessica didn't care because none of them knew the reason behind the change. It wasn't tutoring from an expensive private coach. It was Sarah, the barefoot girl with a powerful mind and a heart bigger than anyone she'd ever known. Jessica couldn't wait to see her. At exactly 12:35 p.m., she was already under the mango tree with 2 spoons, a lunchbox, and Sarah's favorite biscuits tucked into the corner. Then she heard it, the low hum of black SUVs rolling into the compound. Students turned to look. Teachers froze mid-sentence. Even the security men adjusted their uniforms and saluted. Jessica's stomach dropped. "Daddy, why is he here?" Chief Thompson didn't visit the school without warning. He was too busy for surprises. His name alone carried weight. His presence filled every space before he even spoke. Jessica stood quickly, brushing crumbs from her skirt. She didn't know what to do. Then, before she could act, Sarah appeared, breathless, smiling, barefoot as always. "I'm here," she said. "Sorry, I had to fetch water before leaving." But Jessica wasn't smiling. Her eyes were locked on the figure stepping out of the SUV. Tall, dark-skinned, impeccably dressed in a black suit and leather shoes. Chief Thompson, her father. Sarah followed her gaze. Her body stiffened. "Is that?" Jessica nodded slowly. "My dad." Sarah's smile vanished. Panic crashed through her chest like a wave. "I have to go," she whispered. But it was too late. "Jessica!" The deep voice echoed across the lawn. She turned. Chief Thompson walked forward, followed by 2 assistants. His eyes were sharp, calculating, confused. "What are you doing out here?" he asked. Jessica swallowed hard. "I was having lunch." "With who?" Chief Thompson looked to his daughter's side and saw Sarah, a girl in a torn dress, legs covered in dust, holding a worn-out plastic bag and a half-eaten biscuit. His brow furrowed. "Who is this?" Sarah bowed her head. Her mouth opened, but words refused to come out. Her entire body trembled. Jessica stepped in front of her. "This is Sarah. She's my friend." "You're what?" "She helps me. She teaches me." Chief Thompson blinked. "Excuse me." Jessica took a breath and stood taller. "The reason I've been doing well in school is because of her. She teaches me during lunch every day, and I understand her better than any teacher here." A long, heavy silence followed. Chief Thompson's eyes remained fixed on the trembling girl behind his daughter. Then he asked quietly, "Who are your parents, child?" Sarah barely looked up. Her voice was dry and cracked. "I don't know my father, sir. My mother, she's sick. She begs by the roadside near Market Street. People call her mad. We have no home." One of the assistants shifted awkwardly. Chief Thompson's face remained unreadable. "You're not in school?" Sarah shook her head. "What? No one to pay fees, sir. My only sponsor. She left the country 2 years ago." Jessica grabbed Sarah's hand. Chief Thompson watched the gesture, his daughter holding this girl's hand like a lifeline. For the first time, he softened. "You've been coming here every day, teaching her in secret." Jessica nodded. "I wanted to tell you, but I was scared." He looked at her, and for once his voice lowered. "Scared of me?" Jessica whispered. "Scared you wouldn't let me see her again." The billionaire turned back to Sarah. She flinched. "I'm not here to hurt you," he said slowly. "Take me to your mother. Please." Sarah took a shaky step back. "Sir, please don't punish her. She doesn't know what I do here. She's not well. If I stop coming, I'll stay away. Just don't hurt her." "I won't," Chief Thompson said gently. "I just want to see her." Jessica looked at her father. "Promise you won't chase Sarah away." He stared at both girls, 2 children from different worlds who had somehow found each other. "I promise," he said. 30 minutes later, the convoy pulled into a dusty street near the main market. Flies buzzed. The scent of burning trash hung in the air. Sarah pointed. "She's there." A woman sat on the sidewalk barefoot, rocking back and forth, laughing at nothing. Her clothes were torn, her hair matted. "That's my mommy," Sarah whispered. Chief Thompson was silent. He stepped down from the vehicle, walked toward the woman, and crouched beside her. "Madam," he said softly. The woman looked up. "Did you bring my wings?" "I left them in your car." Tears welled in Sarah's eyes. "I'm going to help her," Chief Thompson said quietly. "I know people. She needs proper care." "Please," Sarah said. "I don't want money. I just want her to be okay." He stood, turned to his assistant, and gave orders. "Get Dr. Williams online. Psychiatric unit, full treatment, no delays." Then he turned back to Sarah. "And you?" Sarah's heart raced. From today, you are not a homeless girl." She gasped. He knelt before her, placed a firm hand on her shoulder, and looked her in the eyes. "You have a father now." Sarah didn't believe it at first, even as the car pulled away from the dirty street that had been her entire world. Even as she watched through the tinted glass while her mother was gently lifted into an ambulance headed for the best psychiatric hospital in Lagos. Even when Jessica held her hand and whispered, "You're safe now," she still thought it was a dream. She didn't cry. She didn't smile. She simply stared, trying to understand how a day that started with fear had somehow ended with a billionaire calling her daughter. Chief Thompson moved fast. By evening, Sarah had taken her first proper bath in years. Jessica had given her fresh pajamas. Her hair had been gently combed and styled by one of the housemaids, who couldn't hide her surprise when Chief Thompson introduced her. "This is Sarah. She'll be staying with us from now on. Treat her with the same respect you give my daughter." The entire house froze. The girl from the street living here? But Chief Thompson's tone left no room for questions. The next morning, Sarah stood in front of the mirror in Jessica's room, wearing a borrowed Queen's Crest school uniform. It was new, crisp, neatly ironed. She could hardly recognize herself. Jessica clapped with delight. "You look just like me." Sarah smiled weakly. "I feel like I'm dreaming." "You're not. My daddy said it's real. He said you belong here." "But I'm the daughter of a mad woman," Sarah said, her voice trembling. Jessica shook her head. "No, you're the daughter of my father now." Sarah turned slowly to the window, staring into the rising morning light. "I don't know how to thank him." Jessica smiled. "Then thank him the only way he truly cares about. Shine. Show the world what you can do." That day, the two girls walked into Queen's Crest together. Matching uniforms, matching bags, matching smiles. Guests followed them. Children whispered. Teachers blinked in confusion. Wasn't that the same street girl who used to hover behind windows and fences? Yes, it was. But today, she walked with the daughter of the school's founder. No more sneaking. No more peeping. She had come through the front gate as a student. In class, Sarah raised her hand for every question, every lesson. She wasn't just good, she was brilliant. By the end of the day, the teachers called a meeting with the principal. "Where did this girl come from?" one asked. "She's not just smart, she's exceptional." The principal smiled. "From the street, apparently. But now she's family." Meanwhile, Chief Thompson kept his promise. Sarah's mother was placed under expert psychiatric care at Serenity Mental Health Institute, the finest facility in Lagos. Dr. Roberts, the chief psychiatrist, had examined Diana personally. "Your mother is suffering from severe bipolar disorder with psychotic features," he explained to Sarah. "It's treatable, but it will take time. Months, possibly years. But there's real hope for improvement." Sarah visited her mother once a week. The first few times, her mother didn't recognize her. She'd shout at walls or cry over invisible snakes. But on the fifth visit, Diana suddenly paused. She looked up at Sarah and whispered, "You look like the sky." Sarah burst into tears. Weeks passed. Sarah adjusted to her new life slowly. She still woke up some nights gasping, thinking she was back on the sidewalk. She still flinched when someone raised a hand too quickly. But gradually, her smile became freer. Her laughter more frequent. She spoke during class. She made new friends. But no one ever took Jessica's place. They were sisters now, not by blood, but by bond. They shared everything. Stories, secrets, lunch, and dreams. Jessica's grades soared. Her confidence bloomed. Her teachers marveled. And they all knew why. Because of the girl who used to sit under the mango tree. One Friday afternoon, Chief Thompson called Sarah into his study. She stood nervously by the door. He gestured for her to sit. "I've been watching you," he said. "You've changed my daughter's life. And mine." Sarah lowered her gaze. "I didn't mean to. I just wanted to learn." He chuckled. "And now you will. As far as I'm concerned, you're my child, and I'll do for you what I do for Jessica." He opened a drawer and handed her a brand new tablet preloaded with all her school materials. Sarah stared at it like it was made of gold. Then she whispered, "Thank you, sir. Thank you for seeing me when nobody else did." He stood and placed a gentle hand on her head. "You were never invisible, Sarah. You just needed someone to look close enough." That night, Sarah sat in the garden under the mango tree, now neatly trimmed, surrounded by clean tiles and benches. She looked up at the stars. "My name is Sarah," she whispered. "Daughter of no one, friend of Jessica, student of Queen's Crest. And now," she smiled, "I have a father." She closed her eyes and whispered a final prayer. "God, I used to ask you to make my mother better, to send me to school, to give me just one friend. You gave me all three. I don't deserve it, but thank you." She placed a hand over her heart. "I promise I won't waste this chance." 5 years later, 16-year-old Sarah Thompson stood at the podium of the University of Lagos Auditorium, delivering the valedictory speech for the Faculty of Mathematics. She had graduated with first-class honors, the youngest person in the university's history to earn a mathematics degree. In the audience sat Chief Thompson, beaming with pride. Beside him was Jessica, now 17 and thriving in her own right as a pre-medical student at the same university. And in the front row, in a special wheelchair with a blanket across her lap, sat Diana. The treatment had worked beyond anyone's expectations. While Diana would never fully recover, she was stable, lucid most days, and filled with joy at seeing her daughter succeed. She understood now where Sarah was, what she was doing, and how far she had come. "Education," Sarah said into the microphone, her voice carrying clearly across the packed auditorium, "is not a privilege reserved for the wealthy. It's a human right that belongs to every child, regardless of their circumstances." The crowd applauded. "I stand before you today, not because I was born into opportunity, but because someone chose to see potential where others saw only problems. Someone chose to build bridges where others built walls." She looked directly at Chief Thompson. "My story began under a mango tree, where a girl with everything shared her lunch with a girl who had nothing. It continued because a father chose love over prejudice, hope over fear." More applause. But my story is not unique. Across this city, across this country, there are thousands of children just like I was. Brilliant minds trapped by poverty. Incredible potential buried under the weight of circumstances they never chose. Her voice grew stronger, more passionate. "Every day, genius is being wasted because we've decided that intelligence only matters when it comes wrapped in expensive uniforms and delivered in air-conditioned cars. Every day, future doctors, engineers, teachers, and leaders are being dismissed as worthless because they don't fit our narrow definition of who deserves a chance." The auditorium was completely silent now, hanging on every word. "I'm not here to tell you that hard work alone is enough. It's not. I'm here to tell you that when hard work meets opportunity, when determination meets compassion, when potential meets investment, miracles happen." She paused, looking out at the sea of faces. "I challenge every person in this room to become someone who sees potential where others see problems. To become someone who builds bridges where others build walls. To become someone who remembers that every child matters, regardless of where they sleep at night." The standing ovation lasted for 5 minutes. After the ceremony, as family and friends gathered for celebration, Sarah slipped away to a quiet corner of the university garden. Jessica found her there, sitting under a tree that reminded them both of where their friendship had begun. "Why so quiet?" Jessica asked, settling beside her sister. "I keep thinking about all the children still out there," Sarah said. "Still hiding behind fences, still listening through windows. What are you going to do about it?" Sarah smiled. "Remember when we talked about our dreams under the mango tree? You said you wanted to be a doctor. I said I wanted to be a teacher. I remember. Well, I've been talking to Daddy about starting a foundation. Free schools for street children. Not charity, real education with real opportunities." Jessica's eyes lit up. "That's brilliant." He said yes. He's already identified potential locations. We could have the first school open within a year. I want you to be co-director. You understand what it's like to struggle academically. You know how important it is to have someone believe in you." Jessica threw her arms around her sister. "Of course. Yes, absolutely yes." 3 years after that conversation, the Thompson Foundation opened its first school in one of Lagos's most underserved neighborhoods. The building was modest but clean, equipped with modern classrooms, a library, and a medical clinic. Above the entrance carved in bold letters, were the words, "Every child deserves a chance." On opening day, Sarah stood in the courtyard watching as hundreds of children streamed through the gates. Children in torn clothes and bare feet, children who had been selling water on highways, children who had been sleeping under bridges. Children exactly like she used to be. Many were accompanied by parents or guardians who looked skeptical, suspicious of any offer that seemed too good to be true. Sarah understood their wariness. The poor had been promised help before, only to be exploited or abandoned when a novelty wore off. "Welcome," Sarah announced through a megaphone, her voice carrying across the crowd. "My name is Sarah Thompson. 6 years ago, I was sleeping in gutters and begging for food. I taught myself mathematics by listening through school windows. I thought I was cursed, forgotten, worthless." The crowd grew quiet. "Today, I hold a university degree. Today, I live in a home filled with love. Today, I stand before you not as someone who escaped poverty, but as someone who wants to build a ladder for others to climb." She gestured toward the school building. "This school is free, completely free. Meals, uniforms, books, medical care, everything is provided. There are only 2 requirements. You must attend every day, and you must help teach younger students what you learn." A murmur rippled through the crowd. "Education is not charity," Sarah continued. "It's investment. We're not saving you, we're investing in you. Because every child here has gifts the world needs. Every child here has potential that poverty has hidden." An elderly man in the crowd called out, "What's the catch? Rich people don't give things for free." Sarah smiled. "The catch is that you have to believe in yourself, even when nobody else does. The catch is that you have to work harder than children who had advantages you never got. The catch is that when you succeed, you'll be expected to come back and help others climb the same ladder." The man nodded slowly, understanding flickering in his eyes. As the registration process began, Sarah moved through the crowd, talking to children individually. Each conversation reminded her of herself at that age, hungry, hopeful, desperate for someone to notice their potential. She met 8-year-old Michael, whose mother sold newspapers at bus stops while he carried water. She met 10-year-old Grace, whose grandmother was blind and needed constant care. She met 12-year-old David, whose father had died in an accident, leaving him to support 3 younger siblings. Each story was different. Each story was the same. "Do you really think I can learn?" Michael asked, his voice tiny and uncertain. Sarah knelt to his level. "I know you can. Want to know how I know?" He nodded. "Because you're here. Because despite everything working against you, something inside you still believes in tomorrow. That's the most important skill any student can have." By sunset, 247 children had enrolled in the Foundation's first school. As Sarah locked the gates, she saw Jessica approaching with Chief Thompson. "How do you feel?" Jessica asked. "Terrified," Sarah admitted. "What if I can't help them all? What if some of them give up? What if I'm not good enough to make a real difference?" Chief Thompson placed a hand on her shoulder. "Do you know what separates successful people from dreamers?" "What?" "Successful people are terrified too. They just do the work anyway." He looked toward the school building, its windows glowing in the fading light. 6 years ago, I made the best decision of my life when I chose to invest in you. Not because I knew you would succeed, but because I believed you deserved the chance to try." Sarah nodded, understanding washing over her. "These children don't need you to be perfect," he continued. "They need you to be present. They need you to see them the way I saw you. Not as problems to be solved, but as potential waiting to be unlocked." Over the following months, the school became a beacon of hope in the community. Test scores soared. Attendance rates reached nearly 100%. Parents who had never dreamed of their children attending university began saving money for application fees. But more importantly, something fundamental shifted in how these children saw themselves. They walked taller. They spoke louder. They raised their hands in class not despite their backgrounds, but because of them. They understood that their struggles had given them strength, resilience, and perspective that privileged children often lacked. The foundation caught national attention. Media outlets wanted interviews. Government officials requested meetings. International education organizations offered partnerships. But for Sarah, the real victory came in smaller moments. Like the afternoon when Michael correctly solved an algebra problem that had stumped him for weeks, then jumped up and down shouting, "I did it! I did it!" Like the morning when Grace's grandmother came to school in tears, thanking Sarah for giving her granddaughter hope when the world had given her only hardship. Like the evening when David approached her after class and said, "Miss Sarah, I want to be a teacher too. I want to help children like us." Each success reminded her of the scared girl who used to hide behind trees, believing she was worthless. That girl had been wrong about almost everything except one crucial truth. Education really could change the world. One afternoon, as Sarah walked through the school corridors observing classes, she paused outside the mathematics room. Through the open door, she could see a 14-year-old boy named James explaining fractions to younger students, using the same leaf-and-stone method she had once taught Jessica. The circle was complete. The student had become the teacher, who was now creating new teachers. That evening, Sarah visited her mother at Serenity Mental Health Institute. Diana was having one of her good days, sitting in the garden reading a romance novel that Jessica had brought her. "My daughter," Diana said, looking up with clear, focused eyes. "Tell me about your school." Sarah sat beside her and described everything. The new students, their progress, their dreams. Diana listened intently, occasionally asking questions that showed she understood not just the words, but the deeper meaning. "I'm proud of you," Diana said when Sarah finished. "You've become exactly who you were meant to be." "What do you mean?" "When you were small, even before the sickness took hold of me completely, I used to watch you. You would find broken toys and fix them. You would teach neighborhood children their letters for free. You would share your food, even when you were hungry." Diana reached out and touched her daughter's hand. "You were born to be a healer, Sarah, not just of ignorance, but of hopelessness. You take broken things and make them whole again." "Mama, you're not broken. My mind is, but my heart isn't. And my heart is so full watching what you've become." As Sarah drove home that night, she reflected on the journey that had brought her here. From a desperate child scavenging for knowledge to a university graduate preparing to expand her foundation nationally. From someone the world had written off as worthless to someone who is now changing how society thought about potential and poverty. But the most important lesson hadn't come from textbooks or lectures. It had come from Jessica, who had chosen friendship over social expectations. From Chief Thompson, who had chosen compassion over convenience. From her mother, who had taught her that love could survive even when the mind couldn't function properly. They had shown her that transformation was always possible when someone was willing to invest in another person's potential. The next morning, Sarah stood before the newest class of foundation students. 50 children between ages 8 and 15, all of whom had been living on the streets or in extreme poverty. Their eyes held the same mixture of hope and fear she remembered from her own childhood. "Welcome," she said, her voice warm but strong. "Some of you are here because you have nowhere else to go. Some of you are here because someone forced you to come. Some of you are here because you heard rumors about free food." A few children laughed nervously. None of that matters. What matters is what happens next. What matters is whether you choose to believe that your current circumstances are permanent, or whether you choose to believe that they're just your starting point. She walked closer to the group. "I'm not going to lie to you. This will be the hardest thing you've ever done. Learning is difficult. Changing is painful. Some days you'll want to quit and return to the familiar struggle of the streets." She paused, meeting their eyes one by one. "But I'm going to tell you a secret that no one told me when I was your age, sitting where you're sitting, feeling what you're feeling. You are not accidents. You are not mistakes. You are not cursed or forgotten or worthless." Her voice grew stronger. "You are brilliant minds that the world hasn't discovered yet. You are future leaders that society hasn't recognized yet. You are proof that potential exists everywhere, even in places where people have stopped looking for it." The children sat straighter, something shifting in their expressions. "Today begins the rest of your lives. Not the lives other people expect you to live, but the lives you choose to build. And I promise you this, no matter how difficult it gets, no matter how many times you want to give up, you will never be alone in this journey." She gestured toward the school building behind her. "This place exists because someone once took a chance on a girl who had nothing except determination and a dream. Now it's your turn. Now it's your chance." She smiled, remembering the mango tree where it all began. Who's ready to prove the world wrong? Every hand in the group shot up, and somewhere in the distance, under a tree in a schoolyard across the city, another brilliant child was probably hiding in the shadows, listening through a window, dreaming of a chance that seemed impossible. But because of what happened under one mango tree between two unlikely friends, that chance was no longer impossible. It was inevitable, because when one person's potential is unlocked, it creates a ripple effect that touches thousands of lives. Because when one child is saved, they grow up to save others. Because when one billionaire chooses compassion over comfort, it doesn't just change individual destinies, it changes the world. The story of Sarah and Jessica was more than just a tale of friendship across social classes. It was proof that extraordinary things happen when ordinary people choose to see potential where others see problems, to build bridges where others build walls, and to invest in human dignity rather than social status. Their mango tree had become a symbol of hope planted in the hearts of hundreds of children who now knew that their circumstances didn't define their futures. And somewhere in Lagos, at this very moment, another hungry child was probably pressing their face against a classroom window, watching other children learn, believing that education was meant for everyone except them. But they would be wrong, because change is contagious, because hope spreads, because when one person stands up and says, "Every child matters," others begin to believe it too. The revolution started under a tree with two girls sharing lunch and dreams. It continued with a billionaire who chose love over prejudice. And it multiplied through a foundation that proved genius exists everywhere. It just needs someone brave enough to recognize it and wise enough to nurture it. This is what happens when we stop judging people by their circumstances and start seeing them for their potential. This is what happens when we choose inclusion over exclusion, investment over abandonment, hope over fear. This is what happens when we remember that every child, regardless of where they sleep or what their parents can afford, deserves not just a chance to survive, but a chance to thrive. Because in the end, we are all teachers. We are all students. We are all responsible for ensuring that brilliance doesn't die in the streets while privilege sits empty in classrooms. The mango tree still stands in Golden Heights Academy, taller now, its branches providing shade for new generations of students. Sometimes Jessica and Sarah sit there together, watching their own children play, remembering the day two scared girls found each other and changed everything. If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you that every person has infinite worth and potential, then help us spread this message. Like this video and subscribe to our channel for more stories that prove miracles happen when humanity chooses compassion over indifference. Because somewhere right now, a brilliant child is waiting for someone to notice them, someone to believe in them, someone to unlock the potential that poverty has tried to bury. That someone could be you. See you in the next video.